A woman hides her status as a billionaire heiress while working at a regular café to see which coworkers and customers treat her with respect. The scent of roasted beans filled the air of Seabreeze Café, a quaint little spot tucked between antique stores in the sleepy town of Willowsport. On a chilly Monday morning, Evelyn Marlowe, 27, with her chestnut hair tied in a loose bun and her porcelain skin hidden behind a faded green apron, wiped the counter with slow, practiced motions. To anyone watching, she was just another small-town girl working to pay rent. But beneath the thrift store jeans and scuffed sneakers hid the heiress to the Marlowe global empire, an international conglomerate that controlled everything from media to real estate. Evelyn had grown tired of hollow smiles and boardroom games. Every date, every friendship, every compliment came laced with calculation. Was it the real her they liked, or the future billionaire with a portfolio worth more than most nations? She needed truth, raw, uncomfortable, unfiltered truth. So she stepped away, literally. Her penthouse in Manhattan now sat empty. Her assistant knew to keep the media at bay, and for the past 2 months she'd been slinging lattes under the alias Eva Carter. She wasn't here to make friends, at least not at first. She wanted to watch, to learn, to feel the weight of normalcy. But as the bell above the door chimed and a regular customer sneered at her for being just a barista, Evelyn began to wonder if hiding wealth also meant hiding worth. Eva, Evelyn's cafe alias, wasn't completely alone. Among the clatter of coffee cups and jazz tunes humming from the radio, there were a few bright spots in her undercover existence. Chief among them was Jaden Brooks, 30, a witty, dark-skinned ex-journalism major with a penchant for slam poetry and cinnamon rolls. With his mop of curls tucked under a backwards cap, Jaden worked the espresso machine with flair, cracking jokes even when orders piled up. "Morning, boss lady," he greeted with a grin one morning, offering her a fresh croissant he had hidden from the rush. "You always look like you're carrying secrets." Evelyn chuckled. "Maybe I am." Jaden didn't pry. That's what made him feel safe. Then there was Marianne, a single mother of 2 in her early 40s, with streaks of silver in her tight braid and kindness in her every move. She took Evelyn under her wing without a second thought, teaching her how to balance trays and avoid the wrath of the grumpy breakfast crowd. But not everyone was so generous. Kendra, the assistant manager with a sharp bob and sharper tongue, seemed to relish belittling Evelyn. "You're just too soft for this kind of work," she often hissed. "No hustle in you." Kendra had no idea the woman she was mocking once negotiated a $500 million deal over brunch, and that was exactly how Evelyn wanted it. It was during the lunch rush when Evelyn noticed something peculiar. A well-dressed man in a tailored blazer entered the cafe, glanced at her twice, and seemed curious. He ordered a black coffee and a slice of carrot cake, then chose a seat near the register. Most customers came and went. He stayed, watching. Evelyn's instincts flared. She knew that look. It was the same calculating gaze she saw in boardrooms. Could someone have recognized her? She shook it off. Maybe he was a tourist. But the next day he returned. Same drink, same seat. When Jaden commented that the guy gave off detective vibes, Evelyn's gut twisted. Between drink orders and cleaning tables, she kept her eyes on the man. He finally spoke after 3 days. "You seem like someone who doesn't belong here," he said with a mild smile, folding his newspaper. Evelyn froze. "Excuse me." He sipped his coffee. "You've got poise. It leaks out of you. I see people. It's what I do." "What is it you do?" she asked, trying to sound casual. "Let's just say I help people find what they've lost." His smile widened. Evelyn walked away without replying, but her mind buzzed. Was he a private investigator, or worse, a corporate spy? Her secret wasn't as airtight as she thought. The cafe hosted its monthly open mic night that Friday. The usually sleepy interior transformed into a cozy performance hub lit by string lights and local talent. Jaden took the stage, delivering lines like daggers wrapped in velvet. Evelyn clapped along, sipping a caramel macchiato she made herself. Midway through the event, a sleek black car parked outside. Out stepped a woman in a designer trench coat and red heels. Vivian Lang, one of Evelyn's former family advisors. Evelyn ducked behind the counter instinctively. Vivian scanned the cafe but didn't seem to spot her. Instead, she ordered from Kendra, paid with a platinum card, and sat elegantly at a corner table. Her presence oozed money, and soon Kendra and other staff were doting on her like she was royalty. "Who's the glam lady?" Jaden asked after his set. "No clue," Evelyn lied, barely breathing. Vivian never approached her, but when she left, Evelyn found a napkin tucked near the register with 5 words in gold ink. "You're not hiding well enough." The game had officially changed. That night, Evelyn couldn't sleep. Her modest apartment above a florist's shop felt too quiet, too exposed. The note was a warning, but from Vivian it might also have been a challenge. Her former advisor had always pushed her to be worthy of the fortune she was born into, but Evelyn wasn't here to prove herself to Vivian or the board. She was here to prove something to herself. Yet the rules of her secret test were shifting. What started as a social experiment now involved unexpected variables. A mysterious customer, a watchful advisor, and a cafe full of people forming real opinions about her. She questioned everything. Was it still a pure test if people from her old world interfered? Could she still trust Jaden and Marianne, even as her web of lies thickened? Was she becoming the very thing she ran from, manipulative, calculated, cold? At dawn, Evelyn made a decision. She would stay. No more running, no more doubt. She'd finish what she started. But the town of Willowsport, and the hearts tangled in it, was about to deliver truths even a billionaire couldn't afford. The next morning, Evelyn resumed her shift as if nothing had happened. Though her mind buzzed with suspicion, she scanned the cafe with new eyes. Every lingering glance, every customer watching her just a moment too long seemed like a threat. She noticed Kendra whispering with one of the newer employees, and though she couldn't hear the words, the quick glances toward her direction sent a chill down her spine. Jaden, ever perceptive, noticed her unease. "Something up, Eva?" Evelyn gave a small smile. "Just tired." But it wasn't true. Every move now felt like she was being watched. Was the man in the blazer working with Vivian? Had she been careless enough to be recognized by someone else? And what if Vivian had told others? Her plan was built on anonymity, on blending in. That illusion was crumbling. At closing, she found another note in her locker. This one typed, "People will show their true selves when they think no one's watching. Don't forget, you're watching too." Evelyn folded the note slowly. Her test of others was also becoming a mirror into herself, and the reflection wasn't as simple as she hoped. The next few days brought a heavy rainstorm that drenched Willowsport, and business at the cafe slowed. Fewer customers meant longer shifts and more time to think. Jaden spent his breaks rehearsing new verses while Marianne shared stories about her kids. Evelyn, though, withdrew. She became quieter, more observant, recording interactions like data points. She watched Kendra flirt shamelessly with wealthy-looking customers and snap at the delivery guy for being late. She saw how Jaden always split his tips with the night cleaner, who barely spoke English. And Marianne, she once paid for a student's meal when they came up short, without hesitation. With every moment, Evelyn's notebook, hidden in her bag, filled with notes, not of profit margins or business forecasts, but of kindness, cruelty, and character. One evening, after helping Marianne clean up, Evelyn hesitated before asking, "Why do you do it all? The extra hours, the kindness, the smiles, even when people don't notice?" Marianne shrugged with a gentle smile. "Because you never know who's watching. But more importantly, I want to be proud of who I see in the mirror." The words struck Evelyn harder than she expected. Maybe this whole thing wasn't just about others. Maybe it was about finding pride in who she was, without the money, the name, or the empire. One afternoon, the cafe was busier than usual, thanks to a surprise visit from a travel blogger who featured Seabreeze Cafe in her latest post. The buzz brought in a mix of tourists, curious locals, and even a few reporters. One young woman with a digital camera eyed Evelyn a little too closely, pausing with suspicion mid-sip. "Has anyone ever told you that you look a lot like Evelyn Marlowe?" she asked casually, while snapping a photo. Evelyn laughed nervously, shaking her head. "I wish I had her wardrobe." The customer chuckled and moved on, but Evelyn's hands trembled as she cleared her table. The resemblance was too close to ignore. If one blogger caught on, others might follow. Word could spread fast. That night, Evelyn called Vivian using a burner phone she had kept for emergencies. "What are you doing?" she demanded. Vivian was calm as ever. "You asked for a test. I'm letting it run its course. You're risking exposure." "I'm offering clarity," Vivian replied. "You've always known people change in the light of truth. Now it's your turn to see who remains unchanged in the dark." Evelyn ended the call, jaw tight. She had wanted control over the test, but now the game was spiraling, and the truth she would soon uncover might hurt more than any lie. As the days wore on, Evelyn's double life grew harder to manage. One moment she was sweeping floors and steaming milk. The next, she was silently analyzing which of her coworkers would still speak to her if they knew her true name. Jaden was kind as always. They started sharing more personal stories during late-night closings. Evelyn even told him vaguely that she came from a complicated family and wanted to live life on her own terms. He didn't judge. "Money can't buy real peace," he said. "If anything, it puts a price tag on your soul." She froze at those words. For a moment she wanted to tell him the truth, to rip the Band-Aid off, but something held her back. Was it fear of being exposed or fear of losing someone who liked her without knowing her status? Kendra, meanwhile, continued to become bolder in her treatment of Evelyn. When the cafe's owner, Mr. Delgado, was out sick, Kendra unofficially assumed control, barking orders and assigning Evelyn the grunt work. It was humiliating. Evelyn had the power to destroy her with a phone call. But she didn't. She stayed. She endured. Because this wasn't about revenge. This was about seeing what bloomed under pressure and what withered in the absence of praise. On the cafe's 3-month employee review day, Mr. Delgado returned and asked each team member to share their thoughts on each other's performance anonymously. Everyone filled out their slips in silence. Evelyn wrote honestly, highlighting Marianne's compassion, Jaden's reliability, and even Kendra's organizational strengths, despite her harsh demeanor. When the results came in, Evelyn read them with interest. Jaden had glowing remarks, Marianne too, but hers mixed. Some called her quiet but kind. Others said she lacked initiative, and one scrawled, probably won't last. No backbone. It stung more than she expected. She'd led international teams. She'd made decisions that shaped cities. But here, in a cafe uniform, she was seen as timid and forgettable. Later that evening, Evelyn looked at herself in the mirror above the sink in the back room. Her reflection showed tired eyes, flour on her shirt, and a face that belonged more to a dreamer than a dynasty. For a long moment she studied herself. No makeup, no entourage, no armor. And for the first time in a long while, she whispered aloud, "Who are you without everything they told you were?" She didn't have the answer, not yet, but it was finally the right question. One slow afternoon, Evelyn stayed behind after her shift to help Marianne stock supplies. As they worked side by side in the cramped storage room, Marianne shared a story about her late grandmother, a woman who, despite having very little, was rich in wisdom. She used to say, "It's not the money you leave behind that counts. It's the way people speak your name when you're gone." Marianne smiled softly as she taped up a box of sugar packets. Evelyn felt a lump in her throat. Here she was, heir to an empire, yet still unsure how she'd be remembered, if at all, for who she truly was. Money could buy buildings, foundations, even political clout. But legacy, that required something different. "You ever wonder," Evelyn asked, "if we're chasing the wrong kind of wealth?" Marianne paused, looked at her carefully. All the time. That night, Evelyn returned to her apartment and pulled out a letter she had written weeks ago but never sent. It was addressed to the Marlowe Foundation's Board of Trustees. In it, she had begun outlining plans to restructure the organization's focus, shifting from elite partnerships to grassroots impact. She reread the letter and realized something important. Her experiences here, in this town, among these people, were reshaping not just her view of others, but her view of power itself. The next morning, the atmosphere in the cafe was charged. A rumor had started, no one knew from where exactly, that a Marlowe family member was spotted in Willowsport. Jaden brought it up casually, jokingly, as he prepped the espresso machine. "You hear the gossip? Some heiress is supposedly undercover in our little town," he said with a grin. "Hope she's not stealing my tip jar ideas." Evelyn laughed, perhaps a beat too quickly. "Sounds like someone's bored." But Kendra had a different tone. "I heard she's pretending to be normal. Probably slumming it for kicks." Her voice was dripping with disdain. Evelyn said nothing, her fingers tightening around the milk jug. Jaden noticed. "Eva, you good?" "Yeah, just tired." But her mind raced. The blogger, Vivian, the notes, someone had talked. She couldn't control the narrative now, only her response to it. And as the day progressed, she noticed more people staring. Subtly at first, then with open curiosity. A few even whispered when she passed. The illusion of anonymity was evaporating. She had wanted to see how people treated her without the weight of her name. Now she was about to see what happened when they found out the truth. By late afternoon, things had escalated. A local tabloid published an article online with a blurry photo of Evelyn taken from outside the cafe. The headline read, "Marlowe heiress hiding in plain sight." It didn't name her directly, but the comments section exploded with speculation. Some believed it, some mocked it, some called her spoiled, others romanticized the idea. Jaden saw the article on his phone during break and showed it to Evelyn, laughing. "Can you imagine? That's some crazy fantasy." Evelyn tried to play along, nodding. "Yeah, ridiculous, right?" But her act was crumbling. Kendra's suspicious glares turned smug. A few customers began acting overly polite. One even tried to take a selfie with her. That night, after everyone left, Evelyn stayed behind and sat on the cafe's stool where she served thousands of coffees. She stared at the door, overwhelmed. This wasn't how she wanted it to happen. The control she had so carefully guarded was gone. People would now judge her not by her work ethic or kindness, but by her wealth, was it still possible to be seen as real? Only one thing was certain: hiding wasn't an option anymore. The next day, Evelyn arrived at the cafe early. She didn't wear her apron. She didn't clock in. She walked to the front of the store and asked everyone to gather for a quick meeting. Jaden, Marianne, Kendra, and a few others stood by with confused faces. "I owe you all the truth," she began. Her voice was steady but soft. "My real name isn't Eva Carter. It's Evelyn Marlowe. And yes, the rumors are true. I'm the heir to the Marlowe family fortune." Gasps rippled through the room. Kendra stepped back in disbelief. Jaden just stared. "I didn't come here to deceive anyone," she continued. "I came here because I needed to know who I was without the name, without the money, and to see how others treated me when they didn't know they were supposed to." The room went quiet. For a moment no one spoke. Then Marianne stepped forward and hugged her. "You were honest with your actions, even when your name wasn't," she said warmly. Jaden nodded slowly. "Guess I should have seen it coming. You always made too perfect a cappuccino." Even Kendra said nothing, her silence more telling than any apology. Evelyn exhaled. The mask was gone, but she had never felt more like herself. The fallout from her confession was immediate. Some coworkers distanced themselves, unsure how to act. Others, like Marianne and Jaden, embraced her all the more. Customers came in just to see the billionaire barista, snapping photos and asking invasive questions. Evelyn remained calm, grounded, polite, but also distant. Her experience had confirmed what she feared and hoped: that people's character shines brightest when they don't think they're being evaluated. She offered to resign, feeling it was the fair thing to do. But Mr. Delgado shook his head. "You worked harder than most. You stayed humble when you could have pulled rank. You're welcome here anytime, name or not." Jaden, too, had a quiet conversation with her on the rooftop one evening. "What are you going to do now, go back to boardrooms and high-rises?" Evelyn smiled. "I might do both." She had made her decision. Her time in Willowsport had changed her. She would still lead her family's empire, but on her own terms, with empathy, with understanding, with grit she'd earned, not inherited. She looked out over the sleepy town below and whispered to herself, "Now I know what kind of heiress I want to be." And for the first time in her life, the future felt entirely hers. 2 weeks after her public reveal, Evelyn returned to the corporate world. Briefly, the Marlowe Foundation's headquarters in Chicago welcomed her back with fanfare, media attention, and shareholders curious about her cafe escapade. She answered their questions with grace, neither bragging about her journey, nor apologizing for it. But she came with plans. During a closed-door board meeting, she presented a bold new vision: a series of community-driven grants, support for working mothers, job training programs, and investments in small businesses. Her cafe experience shaped every word of her proposal. "We've spent decades funding prestige," she said, "but real change happens where people are overlooked. I've seen that now, not from a penthouse, but from behind a counter." Some board members were skeptical, others inspired. But Evelyn was persuasive, grounded not in theory but lived experience. By the end of the session, the board voted unanimously to back her pilot programs. She left the tower that evening not with a briefcase full of contracts, but with a quiet smile. She wasn't running away from her inheritance anymore. She was choosing how to use it, and she finally understood: power meant nothing without purpose. Though her schedule filled with foundation work, Evelyn made a personal rule. She would return to Willowsport every other weekend. She never asked for special treatment. She just clocked in, tied her apron, and worked the register like always. Some customers still gawked. Others treated her the same. But the ones that mattered, Marianne, Jaden, Mr. Delgado, they welcomed her without pretense. Kendra, however, had resigned shortly after Evelyn's reveal, unable to accept being outranked by someone she once mocked. Evelyn didn't hold a grudge. Some people weren't ready for the mirror honesty held up. Jaden had started writing a blog called Baristas and Billionaires, anonymously detailing the experiences of working-class heroes. When Evelyn read the first post, she cried. "You captured more of me in 800 words than the press has in years," she told him one evening. He shrugged. "You made it easy." Their bond deepened. It was no longer about secrets or curiosity. It was about shared values, respect, kindness, truth. And though neither said it out loud yet, something real was brewing between them, more real than anything Evelyn had ever known. The media frenzy eventually faded, but Evelyn's story lived on. Journalists loved the headline, "Billionaire disguises herself to discover humanity." But Evelyn hated the oversimplification. Her story wasn't a publicity stunt, it was a personal reckoning. One morning she was invited to speak at a university commencement. She considered declining but ultimately accepted. Her speech was not rehearsed, polished, or filled with corporate platitudes. I lived most of my life being told who I was supposed to be. Then one day I asked a better question, who am I when no one's watching? She paused, scanning the sea of caps and gowns. The answer surprised me. I'm still finding it, honestly, but here's what I do know. You don't need to wear wealth, titles, or suits to make a difference. You need to listen, to care, to act. The students gave her a standing ovation. But Evelyn didn't smile for the applause. She smiled because she believed her words. She wasn't hiding anymore. Not behind a fake name, not behind wealth. She had chosen to live with her whole identity, and the world would have to take her as she was. One breezy Sunday afternoon, Evelyn and Jaden sat on a park bench overlooking the Willowsport Marina. The sun glittered off the water as boats gently rocked below. They talked about everything and nothing, plans, memories, awkward cafe moments. Jaden had just finished his first spoken word tour and was working on a book. I still can't believe I almost didn't talk to you that first week, he said, nudging her with a grin. Evelyn smiled. You would have missed out on a lot of bad coffee art, would have missed out on you. There it was. Simple. Honest. I need you to know, she said softly, if I had stayed Evelyn Marlowe from the start, you would have never known the real me. I think I would have found her, he said. Eventually. They sat in silence, the kind that comes not from distance but deep comfort. When he reached for her hand, she didn't hesitate. Their love didn't need a grand gesture or a dramatic reveal. It had grown in the cracks, between tips and trials, between humility and hope, and now it had space to bloom. Months passed. The Marlowe Foundation flourished under Evelyn's leadership. Seabreeze Cafe gained fame not because of the heiress who once worked there, but because of its authenticity, warmth, and the people who ran it. Evelyn continued her bi-weekly visits, not out of obligation but out of love. She no longer needed to pretend or test anyone. Her disguise had served its purpose. She often looked back on her first day behind that counter. The nerves, the doubt, the fear of being unseen. She had found more than respect in Willowsport. She had found herself. Legacy, she realized, wasn't about inheritance. It was about intention. She stood once more behind the cafe register one calm morning, the bell chiming as a new customer walked in. "Welcome to Seabreeze," she said with a warm smile. "What can I get started for you?" Because billionaire or barista, heiress or human, Evelyn Marlowe had finally become the author of her own story. If this journey moved you, inspired you, or made you believe in authenticity over appearances, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more powerful stories just like this.